In tonight's edition, visa immigration statistics updates from the Department of Home Affairs and the Tasmanian Gold Pass heartbreak for early childhood teachers. Hi, I'm Karl Konrad and welcome to our weekly edition of Australian Immigration News. This program is proudly brought to you by Australian Immigration Law Services, the practice I started in the heart of Sydney now more than 26 years ago. The Department of Home Affairs administration of the Immigration and Citizenship Programs booklet was released this week with the usual interesting stats. It outlines some implementations of the migration strategy that was released in December 2023. You know, the one that I mentioned last week that the Immigration Minister Tony Burke has not given much attention to. The new report says, looking ahead, the department is focused on longer-term reforms, including a review into regional migration settings and the essential skills pathway. Well, according to our immigration minister, he does not believe in long-term plans and wants to focus on the here and now.
Last year, your department did announce that it would move to a 4-year planning model for immigration. It said that this would enable migration planning to better align with long-term infrastructure, housing and services planning across all levels of government. What's happened to that plan?
Look, part of my reservation on, as I've looked more deeply into this, is the first job of the immigration program is to make sure it is tailored to the needs of the nation. And what I am concerned about is if you overcommit where you will be at in future years, you miss some of the changed needs of the nation that we have.
And as far as reviewing the regional migration settings and letting our country neighbours grow and prosper, he is in the process of cutting their regional sponsorship opportunities, as reported in the Sydney Morning Herald article. The allocations to WA has been cut by 32%, which is a huge decrease. Last year they were granted 5,000 places and this year it's reported to be down to 3,400 according to the article. This is not to say that all states and territories will get a 32% cut in their allocations, but it's a worry since the official numbers are yet to be released and it's already coming up to the 5th month of this financial year. Now getting back to the administration booklet, the department says it has implemented most of the actions set out in the migration strategy. So let's take a look at their claims. They claim to be following key measures which were implemented during the 24 to 25 financial year. The Business Innovation and Investment Program was closed to new applicants on the 31st of July 2024, while that program was dying a slow death well beforehand anyway. The National Innovation Visa was introduced, which has turned out to be a major flop. Of course, these are my editorial additions here. The new Skills in Demand visa was implemented in December 2024, which actually was nearly identical to the old temporary skills shortage visa except for the addition of a high income stream, and now we have a new single list. A number of student integrity reforms were implemented in the student and temporary graduate visa programs throughout 2024. Yes, well, for the student visas that is true, but for the graduate visa, definitely not. In fact, cutting people off from that program just because they turned 36 years of age and destroying their dreams showed a lack of integrity within the government, not the visa applicants. However, credit to the Labor government, when they took over there has been a significant improvement in removing the backlogs in applications. They state, at the 30th of June 2025, the department had finalised 97.6% of temporary visa applications lodged in the 24 to 25 financial year. At the 30th of June 2025, the department had finalised 53.4% of the permanent visa applications lodged in 24 to 25. Of course, the processing of permanent applications is affected when the planning levels has been reached for various subclasses. The significant delays in many skilled visa applications are thus pushed into the next financial year before they get a look in. Of course, one of the key figures the government wants to promote is that the net overseas migration figure, the NOM, is heading downwards, as shown here in the published graph. Lucky for them, it's plummeting downwards rather than a gentle slope. The government's planning levels for the NOM over the next few years is set at 225,000. However, as we covered in our last video, planning levels and the NOM are not really possible as you don't know how many Australians will come and go during any one financial year. Those in Australia on temporary visas is something the government can control, but there are no set planning levels for them. We can see a 21% increase in working holiday makers and a 31% increase of temporary skilled employment visa holders. While this may seem dramatic, given that most of them went home during the pandemic, these are likely to be catch-up figures. Student visa numbers, however, are surprisingly steady. The very high numbers on bridging visas, however, is a significant concern because these figures don't even include bridging visa E's. Why those figures are not disclosed, we are not sure. Overall, these temporary visa holders are adding up, with nearly 2.8 million in Australia. That's a 3.5% increase over the 23-24 financial year. But remember, about 700,000 of them are New Zealanders. And there are more on the way, with this table demonstrating a 34.5% increase in the number of 482 visas being lodged. Now, speaking of 482 visa holders, the department has listed the top 15 occupations that have been nominated from the Core Skilled Occupation List, the CSOL. Chefs, doctors, motor mechanics, software and application programmers, and nurses take the top 5 spots. The government would like to see construction and trade workers dominate these top 15 positions, but unless they loosen the sponsorship requirements, that's never going to happen. Given that most tradies work under their own ABNs these days and self-sponsorship is shunned, it is unlikely we'll ever see them in this list despite the rising demand. The government is still trying to promote their aged care industry labour agreements as a success by sprucing more than 132 agreements in place with 30,000 possible places out there. However, only 2,305 visas have been granted under this scheme, which is pitiful considering the demand. To make matters worse, we have been learning that over time, for the businesses that have signed up for this agreement, most are not offering to sponsor for PR via the 186 visa. They seem to be happy just to keep sponsoring them on the 482 visa. This has widely become known amongst visa applicants, so without a PR pathway open to them further on down the line, many may not see the worth of the 482 visa under these agreements. There is no doubt that this industry agreement alone will not deliver the numbers we need unless a guaranteed PR process is offered, rather than relying on an employer's whim. The government is claiming some success with the number of student visa applications decreasing. An overall drop of 26.4% is what the government has been hoping for since the implementation of Ministerial Direction 111. This direction slows down the processing times of applications until basically people give up. You can see from the figures, the vocational, Alicos and school sectors is where most of that decrease is coming from. No doubt that the $2,000 application fee will continue this trend. The highest refusal rates of student visas occurs in the vocational sector of about 47%, with an approval rating of just 53%. The new types of ballot systems for the working holiday visa applications is bringing in a tidy sum to the government without them having to lift a pen. With a $25 registration fee, you can see from this table, 139,633 of them makes a tidy $3.5 million profit. India has the largest number of ballot hopefuls with nearly 100,000 competing for just 1,000 places. Now perhaps those chances are better than winning a lottery, but you can see from China and Vietnam they have a much more favourable probability. Around 60% of those visas granted under the Permanent Migration Program are to migrants already on shore and in the community, residing in established households at the time of visa grant. You can see from this table here that Indian nationals are by far the highest proportion of these places, all 48,326 of them. Chinese nationals were second with just over 20,000, followed by the Philippines and the United Kingdom and Pakistan. The United States has yet to surface on this list, but that may change as Trump is causing many to flee. Canada has been reaping in doctors and nurses who are fleeing the carnage in the US.
It's Brandy Fry's first day of work in the emergency room at Nanaimo General Hospital.
I'm so excited to be here. So relieved.
She's a nurse. She left the United States to escape Donald Trump. The province of British Columbia says more than 140 American doctors, nurses, and nurse practitioners have accepted offers to work here, and it expects that number to grow.
Trump came into office. It was like everything turned just so vulgar and ugly.
Soon Australia may be running ads to attract US trained medical staff here as well. Tasmania held a seminar last week to outline its new state sponsorship system. What was fascinating was the explanation of changes to the priority attributes and ranking system with new point allocations. In particular, their clarification that early childhood teachers would only be accepted under the Gold Pass system if they had worked for 6 months within a school setting rather than in a private teaching arrangement. Indeed, all teaching occupations have this caveat, but early childhood teachers are the most affected by this change. It means that those teachers working in private childhood centres are significantly disadvantaged, only being eligible for the green priority groups, where you can earn only 300 points after working at least 18 months in your occupation. That's a huge difference from working only 6 months and then being nominated for PR that was offered previously. Many early childhood teachers have been left broken-hearted by this change. Well, that's all that we have time for tonight. Remember, if you need help, we are always here to lend a hand. You can book a consultation online, but if you're in a hurry, just pick up the phone. As always, take care out there, and I will see you next time. So, bye for now.